I'm Ken. This is Losing It 2025. Welcome to the week 35 update. As you can see from the thumbnail that I posted, my weight has fluctuated a lot this week. It's been down to as low as 243 and back up again to as high as 247. It's gone back and forth and averaged out at about 245.6 over the course of the week. One of the things that can be really frustrating when you're trying to lose weight is when the scale is doing this roller coaster like fluctuation, and it's not what you like to see. What I really like to see are the results that I got a couple weeks ago when I was doing the What I Eat Over 3 Days video. Take a look at the previous week or two's performance. So as you can see, there's a steady decline there, all pretty much in the same direction, which is what led me to the 243 result that I had at the beginning of this week. So my question then to myself was, why the fluctuation? Why the sudden volatility in my results? And as I thought it over and compared my results to my practice, I realized there were several very specific reasons that I saw a different result this week as compared to what I had seen the week before. And that is what I want to talk about in this week's video. So as I consider my results this week, there are 3 or 4 things that really stand out to me that were different from what I had been doing the week before. And I think that that difference in my circumstances and in my behaviors are very strongly correlated to the results that I saw. And the first one is the practice of tracking my meals. Over the previous week, I had been doing a What I Eat Over the Course of 3 Days video. And as a result of that, I was paying especially close attention to everything that I ate. I was logging every bite of every meal. I was measuring foods. I was doing a really good job of keeping track of exactly what I was putting in my body. As a result of that, I did a lot less mindless eating. I did a lot less snacking in between meals. And so once I was done recording that video and I went back to, the status quo, doing things normally, not necessarily, tracking every single thing, I realized that not doing that, not practicing that keystone habit of tracking my food, was allowing me to revert to some old behavior patterns. Now, don't misunderstand me. I wasn't eating anything that I shouldn't eat. Everything that I ate was appropriate for my whole foods plant-based diet. But what I wasn't doing was paying as close attention as I should have to 2 things. Number 1, my caloric budget. And so I can't be certain that I was in a calorie deficit the entire week. And secondly, I wasn't paying as much attention to when I ate. I'd been doing a really good job over the past few weeks of maintaining a good intermittent fasting schedule, even though it was only 12 hours. Well, over this last week, I was being a lot less careful about that. I was allowing hunger and habit to drive my eating rather than a specific feeding schedule. And the results were what you might expect the results to be. As my behavior fluctuated, the results that I was getting fluctuated as well. So that is the first thing. Lack of tracking led to mindless eating, carelessness in my caloric budget, and in my feeding window. All of those behaviors combined resulted in fluctuations in my weight loss or gain, as the case might be. So that's the first thing. But then I have to ask myself the question, why was I doing that? Why wasn't I tracking my foods? What was causing me to have the desire to snack between meals? And what was it that had caused me to slip back into my old eating patterns so that I wasn't mindful of my fasting window? Well, when I think about that, I come to the second thing that I want to talk about, and that is stress. Over the last week or two, I've been dealing with a lot more personal stress. The busyness of my schedule, additional pressures at work, issues at home with not having time to get the things done that I needed to do, all of those things combined to cause a lot of low-grade stress. I can't point at any one thing to say that was stressing me out or this was stressing me out. But the reality is, the cumulative nature of the various pressures that I was facing was causing me to feel a higher degree of stress than I had in the weeks before. And rather than managing that stress appropriately, I was allowing a stress response that caused me to rebel in the areas of my eating. I was too stressed out to be careful about my caloric budget. I was stressed out, and so as I was preparing food, I would grab a handful of peanuts, or I would grab an extra nutrition bar, or I would add a couple of dates dipped in some honeyed peanut butter. Did you notice not only am I snacking between meals, but the snacks that I was gravitating towards were calorically dense snacks that had a high fat, sweet, or salty element to them. And for me, those are stress managing behaviors. Now, what I normally was doing in my life prior to going back to school to manage stress was I was going on a lot of long walks. And because of the busyness of my schedule and an inability to work those longer walks and those workouts into my schedule as I wanted and intended to, because I wasn't able to do that, I was losing or missing out on the stress-reducing benefits that are associated with working out and with going on those long walks. So the first thing was mindless eating, not tracking my calories, and not watching my fasting window. But the second thing was not dealing with stress in a healthy and appropriate manner. And that lack of those coping mechanisms, or the lack of my practicing those coping mechanisms, left me vulnerable to these other food-related habits that again drove that fluctuation in my weight. So I believe that was the second issue, was not managing my stress appropriately. So that brings me to the third thing, which I'm not positive is related, but certainly may be. A couple weeks ago, when I was losing weight more steadily, what I was also doing at that time was being a lot more careful about my sleep. I was going to bed earlier. I was on a regular wake-up schedule. Things were going pretty well. I was averaging at that time about 6 to 6.5 hours sleep, which, though not enough, was better than what I had been getting before. But over the last week, in part because of busyness, and I'm sure as a result of stress, I had not only started eating more and out of regular times, but I was also not being as careful about my bedtime. And then even when I did go to bed, my sleep was interrupted more frequently. I wasn't sleeping through the night, and I was having a harder time falling asleep. And so I believe that the lack of sleep combined with the stress probably resulted in an increase in my cortisol levels, which also wreaks havoc on weight loss. So my theory is that those three things combined, the lack of practicing the keystone habit of tracking my food, which resulted in the resurgence of bad habits like mindless eating, as well as high calorically dense snacks and eating outside of, my feeding window, combined with the lack of appropriate stress management through walking, prayer, and other things like that, and then adding to that the problems with sleep and the very likely reality of an increased cortisol level, I believe that those three things combined to cause the fluctuations in my weight that I saw over this last week. Now, here's the thing. The question is, if I am correct in my assumption that these are the contributing factors that correlate to this lack of progress in my weight loss, how do I respond to that? What do I do with the knowledge that I have gleaned from this analysis of my own behavior? You do a U-turn, just like I'm doing right now. So, what does the U-turn look like? Hold that thought. So, all of that begs the question. If my theory is correct, that the lack of practicing my keystone habit of tracking my food resulted in the resurgence of bad habits like eating outside of my feeding window and not maintaining my intermittent fasting, like snacking in between meals and eating calorically dense foods that caused me in turn to exceed my caloric budget. And if that was in fact caused in part, at least, by a higher level of stress in my life, that was the result of, not having my normal coping mechanisms in place, like walking or exercising. And if that was exacerbated by a lack of sleep, which made me less capable of dealing with that stress because of higher cortisol levels, all of which culminated in a weight gain, or at least a stagnation of my weight loss. If my theory about these things is correct, what then should I do, right? What is the appropriate response to these things? Now, one thing that people do a lot of times, and one thing that I've found myself doing when I see this kind of stagnation in my weight loss, is to become frustrated. But here's the thing, if I become frustrated, that's only going to add to my stress. It's only going to make the situation worse, and it's going to make me want to snack more, and things are just going to snowball from there. So getting frustrated with myself is not the answer. Instead, I need to show myself a little bit of grace. I need to say, you know what? It's okay. I didn't lose 4 pounds this week. I didn't lose 3 pounds this week. I didn't lose 2 pounds this week. In fact, I gained a pound this week. That's okay. A little bit of grace would be well applied in this situation, because giving myself permission to have been off plan a little bit and to have struggled a little bit not only helps me acknowledge the fact that I'm human and that I have to struggle with and deal with the same things that everybody else does, but it also helps to reduce my stress level, because I'm not feeling even worse about myself as a result of this fluctuation over this last week. The second thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to get defeated. I don't want to feel hopeless. I don't want to allow myself to get depressed, because then that robs my motivation. It robs my willingness to try. It makes me feel as though I can't win, or I can't succeed, or I'm doomed to fail. That kind of negative, soundtrack in our minds does nothing to help us and does everything to drag us down and to get us stuck into that negative behavior cycle. So I'm not going to be critical of myself. I'm going to show myself grace. I'm not going to get depressed or hopeless. I'm going to recognize that there's a correlation between my behaviors and my results. So I'm going to recommit to doing the 2 or 3 things that I know I need to do in order to move my behavior back in the direction that it needs to go in for me to see the success that I want to see. You can do it! Number 1, I'm going to focus on my sleep. I'm going to stop editing videos late into the night, because, I don't doom scroll anymore. I doom edit, right? I'm recording and editing videos late into the night, and that's usually what I'm doing that is keeping me up late. So I'm going to stop doing that. I am going to set a hard stop time for video recording and production. And when that stop time comes around, I'm going to go get ready for bed, and I'm going to go to bed. And so I'm going to focus on getting the sleep that I need this week, which I believe will help to reduce my cortisol levels and give me greater capacity to deal with stress that I experience throughout the week. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on those stress managing behaviors that I know will help me to manage my stress. The key one, the main one, is walking. Walking is something that has been a huge tool for me in terms of managing my stress. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I've done something positive. It burns additional calories. It gives me time to meditate and to pray and to think. It's all those things in addition to the additional benefits of the cardio exercise that I'm getting when I walk, in addition to the fat burning powerhouse that walking is. It gives me that peace, and it helps me find that state of mind that allows me to manage and deal with the stressful situations of life much more effectively. So, improved sleep habits and a recommitment to walking and to incorporating exercise into my busy schedule. Now, how I'm going to do that second one, I have not figured that out yet. I am in the process of figuring out how to do that. The goal of incorporating regular exercise at least 4 to 5 times a week through either walking or going to the gym for strength training or working on strength training at home, the goal of integrating that, I've tried many times and I've failed. I've even done videos that you've seen about, hey, this is my first day and I'm going to make it the first of several. And it's like I keep trying and I keep failing. So I need to dig deeper on that one and figure out exactly what it is that is preventing me from succeeding in making that change in my lifestyle. And so to help myself with that, I am doing a 30-day dig challenge. The DIG in dig stands for discovery, investigation, and grind. It's the discovery, the investigation, and the grind that leads to growth. And in keeping with that, I've started a dig 30-day challenge. I will link the video on the end screen. There'll be a little right up here. I'll put it right up there, right there. That's where it'll go. And so there's a link to the first video in what is a 30-day challenge. And I want to invite you to join me in it. It's essentially 30 days of journaling that are intended to explore what my goal is, what things are standing in the way of my achieving that goal, preparing to execute the plan that needs to be in place in order to get to where I want to be. So my goal is integrating exercise into my busy schedule in a consistent way so that I can develop the habit of regular exercise 4 to 5 times per week. So that's my focus. Number one, getting my sleep where it needs to be by putting good sleep habits into place and a cutoff time for video editing and production. Number two, doing the dig 30-day challenge, which is going to help me integrate exercise into my life on a regular basis, which will help to manage my stress. And thirdly, I'm going to minimize eating between meals. I'm going to focus on not mindlessly eating. I'm going to avoid those calorically dense snacks. And I'm going to do all of that by recommitting to the keystone habit of tracking my food for every meal every day. Those are the 3 things that I'm going to do to try to modify the behaviors that I've seen. And hopefully, over the next week or two, we'll see a result that aligns with those new patterns of behavior. So that's it. That is the week 35 update of Losing It 2025. Thank you so much for joining me. And let me ask, what do you do when you find that you are not meeting your weight loss goals? How do you respond when you see a setback on the scale? I would love to know. Go ahead and leave a comment letting me know how you handle those types of situations or how you would like to handle them in the future. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. This is a growing channel and it is a growing community. I recently launched a community page where I'm enjoying the interactions that I'm having with those of you that are posting there. Thank you so much for engaging with this channel and engaging with the community. It is truly a blessing to be able to get to know you guys a little bit better. So again, please like the video, subscribe to the video, share it. Most of all, leave a comment. Let me know, again, how you deal with setbacks when you step on the scale and see a number that you don't like. I'd love to know what your responses are to those things, and I look forward to interacting with you in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and have a blessed day.